No problem, Michelle. Just going to stop the transcription. And then, oh gosh, I hope I'd left the document open because now that would be typical of me. No, look, oh, for the first time in my life, I'm so excited right now that I'm organized. So, this is what you would have received: memorandum of understanding. Um, this is the contract between you and the pod leader. I think there's nothing too dramatic there. I think when we did the orientation, I think I explained my role versus the role of the different pod leaders. Where there is confusion is over these two clauses. Now, just remember, guys, pod leaders aren't allowed to receive your submissions prior to the final submission, aren't allowed to receive drafts that they give feedback on, and then you only do the final submission. What we mean by that is that because this is cumulative, because this is building blocks building towards your final document, you have to receive the feedback in time for the next submission. Okay, so what will happen is that when you submit, we have 7 days to mark, and in terms of those 7 days, that feedback would take place. F&G does not suggest or shouldn't suggest that it is about if in particular submitting a document, getting feedback, and then fixing that document before the final submission. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I've explained it. Just also remember this is the relationship between you and your pod leader. I think unless things go wrong, I don't really want to know about it. But you see, I would hate to have to step in. But I think we've got very good pod leaders. I've had a look at the list, and I've worked with most of those people before, and that's it. To also just say, if there are inconsistencies, sometimes you have good lecturers, sometimes you have bad lecturers. I think the moment we start comparing will drive us ourselves insane. Any questions on that?
Are there any? How you doing?
Hi, the Brett. Yeah, I'm good, man.
All good, all good. Just a bit knackered from
Yeah,
the
it happens.
demand. Henny, just a quick one. On that note of marking within 7 days, that's obviously 7 working days. From the 20th would be Friday this week. We should get our submissions back. Is that correct?
That's correct, boy. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
working days. So not so the day of the submission, the day after there are 7 working days. That's it.
Yes. So it'll
Because you
bring us
obviously get,
to Friday.
is it
We should
Friday? Yeah. Just
technically
just
we should.
just yeah, you should. But can I just say the way that this is put together, it's not as if you need that information. I think it's just a clause to highlight the importance of good feedback. So
Okay, with
if
you.
your pod leader hasn't marked, just remember, guys, this is an insane semester. So I think also just a deep breath. I mean, obviously, we mustn't be ridiculous and give them 20 days. But just
Sure.
remember, some of the stuff might be tight, but they should all finish the marking. But having said that, we've got so much other marking. So it should be the 7 days, but that's for admin to deal with. I don't get involved with that. I think Michaela has the same thing
All right.
in
That
terms
is
of her
clear.
side. Yeah. So
And
so
then
just remember, yeah, go boy.
their responsibility is to upload that mark on ARC.
Yeah, so it's going to be on ARC. We are looking at a different feedback system that works incredibly well in honors and at third year level. So those of you that have done third year with Varsity College will remember that it was part of a Excel document that gets uploaded. We're looking to transition to that. Then you can download that Excel document, so you don't have to go and look on ARC, and it will tell you on the Excel document the feedback in terms of each of the sections where you went wrong. Okay,
Okay,
so there will
brilliant.
be a slight change. They're in the process that was agreed today, but you know just that will take a moment. I'm hoping that in the second submission it will do that. I prefer the Excel submission because you can download that. With Arc, I think you'll have to go onto it all the time.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for that, Henny. Appreciate it.
And if it and Michaela, we shouldn't allow it to be 10 days. I mean, there's not a big verification process, but we also just have to be a little bit generous in terms of the verifiers, the people who check it. Okay, so almost, yeah. So I don't know. I've had it since last year. Can't even remember whether I did have it last year, but I definitely have it this year. So just in general, how did the first submission go? How did it feel? Yeah, is that it? Oh my gosh, that's a long time. Cleo, go for it.
So,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm good, man.
So I've been working on the second submission, and I finally see what you were saying when you said at some point on this journey you're going to feel like the stupidest person in the world.
Thank goodness it's happened.
Because I'm reading through like my first submission, whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, what was I saying here? What time did I write this?
I love it. Cleo, I promised you it will happen to everyone. And please don't think that you're the only person in that boat. Everyone here will have that moment where they think, holy nonsense. Somewhere my genetics have been spoiled and I have got the dumb brains from my family.
Oh, so clearly, okay, so based on what you say, telling me, okay, so it's not just me then.
Honestly, it's just everyone who has had that moment yet where they've believed that they're too stupid to do this, just show of hands. Because it's going to happen. Seriously, look at the hands go up and look down the side there. Leo, I promise you, it happens to every one of us. It happens to every one of us. At some point, when I did my last bit of study, I had created, oh gosh, this second verification system. I did grounded theory, where the one day I had understood it perfectly and I could match it and verify and I could triangulate. The next day I couldn't remember how I had connected the two. And often it's a bit of stress, and often it's about stepping away completely. And remember the power of the unconscious, guys. If you get stuck, move away, take 10 minutes, walk around the pool, drink a cup of coffee, play with the dog or the parrot or whatever, go take your goldfish for a walk, whatever it needs, just to take your mind off what is going on. The unconscious, don't have brandy. Don't have brandy. The unconscious is immensely powerful. Go for it, Walter. I think, Walter, that might be a legacy hand. To just say, in terms of the unconscious working, all of you have had this, and often it happens in math, where you sit with a problem and it makes no sense. And then you walk away and you have that aha moment. You will have that aha moment. So this is nothing new. And the best thing in the world is the aha moment. And then you go, how the hell could I be this stupid? You know, how the heck can I be this silly? So please don't feel that way. So everyone has it. And remember, I said this. I promise you there will be a moment right before your final submission where you'll go, oh, this was brilliant. Walter, is your hand to talk, or is that a legacy hand? Well, Michaela, that's the most wonderful part of it, you know, where you go, genuchtig, you know, that's not so shabby. Take your hand down, Boya. Thank you. Right, so submission 2, I don't know. I have shared these slides. I'm certain I've shared these slides. If I haven't, my apologies. So I'm not going to talk about the title. I know that some of the pod leaders have changed the titles, and that's absolutely fine. Remember, the primary relationship is with your pod leader, but our approach. Oh, that's exactly it, Almas. That is exactly it. The primary relationship is with your pod leader, but the way I approach this is that I like the idea of talking about your research, because your pod leader gets, is it 4 1.5 hour sessions? That's 6 hours to create a miracle. And that's why we use your examples in my class, and we discuss from your perspective in my class. So just remember, our approach is that I am not just doing theory here. I refuse to just do theory. I am very much part of the journey, but the primary relationship is always with your pod leader. Right. So let's look at, I'm not looking at the title. Okay. So my apologies. And can I just ask, Cleo, where are you feeling a little bit dumb? At what point? Is it in here somewhere?
It's actually in the aim and rationale, because I was
Okay,
just
we'll
reading
sort that out.
through
Easy to
like,
fix.
is it?
Easy to fix, I
But
promise
because I
you.
was reading through my lit review to see, okay, what have I written? What can I use? Whatever. And I'm thinking, like reading through it, I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense, but I could have put this there, put that there. I should have written a bit more
Yeah.
here.
That's also going to happen, where you'll move stuff around, and where your pod leader will tell you to rather move this to another place. Some sections are repetitive. Remember, though, guys, it's that golden thread. As long as those sections essentially build on each other, build on the same argument, connect back to your title and your research problem, that's the reality of it. So you'll believe they're repetitive, but that's how you build your golden thread. And I did say that is a term you're going to hear from me a bazillion times during our time together in these. I think it's about 10 weeks. I didn't really count. I don't really care. But that golden thread. So let's look at the bits and pieces here. The title, not discussing, that should be addressed by now. That's exactly, and we're going to discuss that, Michaela, 100%. So, in terms of the background, I think for me, when I think about the background, the first thing to remember is the importance of a good introduction here. You guys will recall from our previous submission and the meetings around the previous submission, that bit where you capture someone's attention, that bit, once you grab their attention by making a provocative statement, by quoting a quotable, and then having that transition sentence that takes you into your background. So remember, the important part of the background is how you start. You want to have something that grabs the attention. You then want that transition sentence, because often you'll make a ridiculous statement. Sorry, you'll make a ridiculous statement. Hold on a second, please, guys. Sorry, guys, just a little bit of a scratchy throat. I'm just getting some water. So it could be a ridiculous statement, and I'm now reminded of what feedback I got when I did my PhD. Now remember, ACT is Afrikaans, and I kept using like, and the feedback came, never use like from the American marker, use the term such as. But I always find it so pretentious when you talk and you say such as, but when you write such as. So I'm going to just say like, but think I'm saying such as. So in terms of, hold on a second, guys. Okay. So in terms of this, if you make a provocative statement like electric cars will kill the world, I mean, it's going to grab attention. And then your transition sentence, yes, it is a bit far-fetched to say that electric cars will kill the world. However, if we look at how the mining takes place, how we dispose of batteries, etc., so those transition bits are important. In terms of your first submission, did everyone have that grab the attention introduction, that statement that stood out at the top? I see some people, oh no, sorry, it was my honors who did it. No, my apologies, not here. Some people are doing that in their assignments now, where they have the opening line. One of the honors assignment for their innovation bit is on BAT, British and American Tobacco. And one of my students said, can an organization that essentially kills people convince the world that they are ethical? And then he transitioned from there. Okay. So you've got that sorted. In terms of the background, the things that you need to remember for me here are facts, stats, and numbers. So you want to throw information in here, essentially bringing us into this topic, contextualizing us within this broader topic. So when I say facts, stats, and numbers, you can say, if we were going to continue with the electric vehicle, what it takes to go into the battery and how many child laborers are used in digging and what impact the disposal has. But give me facts, stats, and numbers. So that is always going to be part of your background. And then how we use those facts, stats, and numbers is this. It starts creating this impression why this study has to be done. It starts telling us that in the world right now, I mean, I saw an article today, and it concerned me so much, and I don't know if I'm going to find it, but our corruption, what is the word? Incidence of corruption has gone up by 54% this year. So if you were to do research into how to solve corruption, that's what you would put in there. A 50% increase in reported corruption cases in 2025. I mean, we're halfway through the year. Okay, we're a little bit more than halfway through the year. So here you go, facts, stats, and numbers. So it really is just giving us that kind of background, the kind of events that have taken place and have unfolded that will bring us here. This is important. Remember facts, stats, and numbers. Please do me a favor, get into the habit. Once you've got the bit that grabs the attention in your transition sentence and you've given me the facts, stats, and numbers around your topic, remember, give me a roadmap. We are looking for that roadmap. In this document, I will be attending to the following: the problem statement, the rationale, etc. Yeah, no, absolutely. Can I also say that in your background, it's absolutely fine to take information from newspapers. It's absolutely fine to take information from stats, essay. Okay, yeah. Don't state opinion as fact. So if you've ever received that from me as a bit of feedback, it's one of the bits of feedback that I have in my library. Don't state opinion as fact. And it's a dangerous thing because a lot of people state opinion as fact. Okay. It is literally just looking at what research says and drawing conclusions from there. And if you've ever received from me, don't state opinion as fact, you'll know what I'm talking about. The second part is the problem statement. So I'm pretty sure I would have said this because I share it in every lecture that I do. A number of years ago, I worked with a group from a public university, and I argued that, and I was doing the lecture, I argued that unless you have a problem statement, you don't have a reason to do research. So if you don't have a problem statement, how's it, Charles? I'm very good, thank you. If you don't have a problem to solve, if you don't have a problem statement, you don't have a reason to do research. The response from the English professor was that my thinking is colonial and we need to decolonize education. I still disagree with him. Then I must have colonial thinking. So remember, the reason we do the research is because there is a deficiency. There is a gap between what should be and what is. It is the thing that concerns us. Absolutely. And important in terms of this, guys, when you write your problem statement, please give me evidence, support it with research. So don't just say it's a problem. You need some bit of evidence to support the opinions on why it is a problem. I like the idea of writing a problem statement in this format, and you won't ever write part A, you won't ever write part B, you won't ever write part C. It's just I need my brain to be organized. My brain is honestly a carousel with horses going up and down. So I need stuff that guides my thinking and that procedurizes things. I'm not going to talk about part A and C yet. Part B, if you leave out part A and B, let me try that again. If you leave out part A and C, you can get away with it. Okay, there's no issue around that. However, part B is the important part. It is the deficiency, it is the gap, it is the thing that causes the headache. And I think it's almost how this impacts people, things, and events. I read an article recently on the ANC and how their popularity rating has dropped below 30%. So if you were doing research into the demise of the ANC, that's the kind of stuff that you would put into this. So, how many parliamentary seats they had, how many they have now, and what some of the pronouncements around those declines have been in academic circles. So give us the problem, but also support your problem with some evidence from research. This is the most important thing. For me, in terms of research, your problem statement is the be-all and end-all. And again, to repeat what I said, if you do not have a problem statement, you do not have a reason to do research, despite what my English professor told, or the English professor argued. Part A is the ideal. So this is in utopia, in the ideal world. So in the ideal world, the ANC, if you would be a party that represents a multitude of interests and has the interests of the country at heart. Part B, however, this is the problem. So if I think of some of my honors students that I'm supervising, one of my honors students is looking at food security in Cape Town and the potential of using rooftop gardens in addressing food security within the inner city area of Cape Town. So ideally, rooftop gardens would be in place in order to address issues associated with food insecurity within Cape Town. However, if we consider there are the following issues that result from food insecurity, the fact that people have one meal a day, etc., etc. And then what we're going to do here, how you propose to improve this part. Please remember not to give me the solutions here, because if you have the solutions, you don't have a reason to do the research. What you will put in here would be, in this research, I will be adopting a qualitative approach in order to engage with subject matter experts on food security in Cape Town, in order to assess the potential of rooftop gardens in addressing food security. To me, this is the important part. The headache, the problem, the deficiency. Please also describe it as a deficiency. Describe it as the gap between what the ideal is. We address food security through rooftop gardens, where versus the reality where we have significant hunger issues and food security issues. And then C, in this, I propose to engage with subject matter experts. Anyone want to give me their title or their topic, and we can look at what the problem would be? Go for it, Leo.
Okay, so my topic, it's exploring the role of non-sales targets performance metrics in promoting the performance of medical sales reps. So what I've currently got for my research questions, let me just get it out.
Just give me the second part there, in promoting performance, hey?
Yeah, in promoting the performance of medical sales reps.
Okay. Okay.
So what I've got is, just because look, I know in my research I've seen that like a lot of organizations still put a lot of focus on sales targets. So so I've done my questions, and the first one I've actually said is, if are sales targets effective in motivating the performance? Are they overutilized, or could non-sales performance metrics be more effective in motivating the performance measures?
Okay, so the first thing with your research questions, and we'll get to this, you can only ask what and how questions.
Okay.
So our questions are yes or no. So you have to ask
Yes.
open-ended questions. So in terms of
Yes.
qualitative research, you can only ask what and how questions.
Okay.
So the overarching question is, what is the potential role of non-sales targets in promoting the performance amongst medical sales reps?
Yes. But I'm just
Does
going to
that
write that
sound
down.
about right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the potential role of non-sales targets metrics in promoting performance amongst medical sales reps? Sorry, guys, please jump in if you want to talk about it, and if you think I'm off track as well. And then remember, and we'll talk about it. But that would be your overarching question. We'll look at your sub questions when we go there. Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
But
sir.
that to me is your overarching question. And we'll talk about the overarching question, or the main question, and the sub questions. Okay. So the problem is that institutions prefer to use sales targets as the way of measuring performance. However, the truth is that often sales reps cannot control issues such as, oh gosh, sorry, Charles, I can't remember. Okay, so let me finish this. I'm so dumb. I can't do two things at once. So your problem is that most organizations involved with medical sales reps will use actual sales hard targets as a measure of performance. The reality, though, is that medical sales reps cannot control issues such as the the um, the economy, that often things outside the control of those medical sales reps will in fact affect the performance, but they will affect them achieving those targets. So you expect them to achieve sales despite so many issues being in place that essentially are out of their control. And what you want is, when you create sales, when you create measures of performance, you want to make sure that those measures are within the control of those sales reps. Now, I don't know whether that's where you're going, and my apologies if I'm sounding a little bit, I mean, remember, I'm making this up on the spot. Clear, is that your sort of approach?
It is my approach. I'm just more looking at it in terms of, okay, how can you best motivate medical sales reps? Is it
Okay.
more if you had to only do sales targets and they must hit that? Or is it more a case of, okay, yeah, as long as they are generating sales, and they're maintaining maintaining their level of revenue, as long as they're maintaining that. And should we rather also focus on encouraging more like the behavioral aspect, nurturing the. So I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of the word.
Okay,
Sorry,
so what is
I'm
the
going off on a
problem?
tangent.
Okay, so what is the problem? We use sales targets to determine whether a medical rep performs or not.
Yes.
The problems with using sales targets is that many of the things that contribute to those sales targets are beyond the control of the medical rep.
Yes.
I mean, if you think that if you have sales targets and you've got somebody who goes to, for example, credit control and they don't get given the credit to actually purchase, those things that salespeople can't control. So often when we deal with salespeople, we use metrics that are beyond their control.
Look, I think it also depends on industry. Sorry, sir.
Yeah,
I think
go for it.
It depends on industry. I'd say pharmaceutical, depending on pharmaceuticals, it depends on what you're selling. But say now the company that I work for does gynecology and urology. So more often than not, like our devices, whatever, are needed for a procedure. So unless there's a case like of COVID where the gynae cases and the uro cases were put on the back burner, there is always demand for these procedures that will need these devices.
But there are things that the salespeople can't influence. You can't influence what your competitors have available. So in traditional sales targets, I mean, I remember, and it's a stupid example, and I'm pretty sure I've used it before, but I remember and sorry, you guys wouldn't even have been born yet, but in 2007, and I remember, you will remember that in 2007, there was the financial collapse. I had, as in a business school course, a group of Mitsubishi Fuso truck salespeople. They were selling so many trucks that they were always run out of stock. In 2008, the recession hit us, and they couldn't move a single truck. And they were using sales targets to determine essentially whether they kept their jobs or not. So in 2007, they looked fantastic. In 2008, they looked completely useless, despite their behavior not changing. The thing that they can control, their behavior not changing. So I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining it clear, but the reality is we often use targets that are not within the control of the salesperson. And it, the fact that it's disheartening when those targets aren't met, and whether there shouldn't be a reconsidering of what we should use as sales metrics. Maybe I'm not doing this clear well enough. Anyone want to jump in that's in sales? Anyone else want to chat about their problem statement? So remember, and obviously we'll have a lot of time together on this. Just remember, part B is the most important thing. Please describe it as a problem, a deficiency. Part C isn't here are the solutions. It is what you intend to do in this research. Part A is the ideal. So your ideal is medical sales reps appropriate measures are used to determine the performance of medical sales reps. However, traditionally, sales targets have been used. And because of sales targets being used, many elements which make up the actual performance of the medical rep is ignored. And also, sales targets are sometimes beyond the control of the medical rep.
Definitely.
To me, it's clear in my mind, but I might not be communicating it well. Hey?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, I'm listening.
No, I was gonna say that makes a lot of sense, and also brings into account things that are out of their control. And I genuinely didn't think of including that, so that's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to chat about their problem statement or their problem? Please remember, though, guys, it has to be a deficiency. You have to describe it as a deficiency. Right. So then we look at your research questions. So please remember, and I hope that I've please make sure that I've got the quantitative bits. Yeah, I've got it both in one. Please remember, when you do this and use my slides, please, if you're doing quantitative, delete all. Please delete all the quantitative stuff if you're doing qualitative, and the other way around. Michaela, maybe focus on, yeah. Medical sales. You see, I think that's narrow enough. You see, I think that is narrow enough. But I think, yeah, maybe medical sales in a particular area. But I think medical sales as a narrowing of an industry definitely is enough.
Yeah,
Is
thank you,
narrow
sir.
enough for me. Okay.
Yeah, and also I didn't want to go too broad with it because I didn't want it to create issues. Okay, yeah, that it's not an effective sample, or yeah, like this is the sample I've got access to.
Okay, and the sample is, but you, if the sample is urology and gynae sales, then narrow it to that.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
okay. So
Yeah.
even the title as well.
I don't want to take you away from where you were. In your sample, who are you intending to interview?
3 of the reps at my work.
And do they all work in urology and
Gyno, yes.
gynecology? You'll include that in your title then. Just bring
Okay.
that into the title and narrow it to that. Thanks for that,
Okay.
Michaela. Really well
Thank
done.
you.
Hey?
Thank you, Michaela.
Okay. So, guys, in terms of your research questions, we do it this way, and I will discuss this with the pod leaders. If you're doing qualitative research, you will have a central research question. This is your overarching research question. The way to think about your central research question is almost to say to yourself, what is the single broadest question I can ask on this particular topic? It has to be broad. The sub-questions are your clarifying questions, and often could be your process type questions. So they are narrower. The rule in terms of these questions is that it is always going to be a set of what and how questions. Can't be anything but what and how. All of them can be what, all of them can be how. I mean, I'm not worried about that, but it's either what or how questions. You cannot ask why questions, because why suggests relationships, and relationships belong to, obviously, quantitative research. So no why questions here, because we're not trying to see the impact of one variable on another. So look at the central phenomenon and then ask that. What is the single broadest question that I can ask in this particular study? And I think I've got very close to what yours should be, clear. So just see, but I think it is pretty close to what you need to have. And
Okay,
then,
great. Thank
yeah.
you.
And also at this level, please don't go more than 3 sub-questions. I think try and narrow it to 3 sub-questions. And it really is just taking that broad question and turning it into processes. So for me, your sub-questions is, what or how does traditional metrics affect the, sorry, let me try that. How do additional metrics, or what are the limitations associated with traditional metrics or sales directed metrics? That's the kind of stuff that will be your sub questions, clear. So what are the limitations associated with traditional sales metrics? And I mean, and then look at some of the other stuff. And you can also say what non-traditional metrics are available in creating performance standards or something. Okay. So your
Great, thank
overarching
you.
question, pleasure. Right. Now, I don't want to go too deep into this. And this I'm leaving with your pod leader. All of us will be doing a phenomenological study. All of us will be looking at some sort of phenomenon. So you can see what the question looks like there. I mean, it's an awful question. My apologies for the subject matter. It comes from the textbook. Okay. So rule is what or how questions, open-ended questions. Honestly, never why questions. It belongs to quantitative. We're not looking at relationships. In terms of quantitative research, what single research question? Okay, single research question. And the best way to do it is look at your title and turn your title into the research question. What is the relationship between whatever variables you have? And Cleo, in terms of yours, we could have taken your title and created that question, to be honest with you. So just what is the relationship between, and look at the two variables. One single question. Who are the quantitative people here? I know, Michaela, you are definitely quantitative. Okay, Tanya. What are your variables, Tanya?
It is what is the relationship between customer service training levels in accordance with customer service levels, satisfaction?
Okay. So what's the relationship between customer service training levels and customer satisfaction levels? Is that about it? Yeah. Oh, you're doing
Yes.
qual. Sorry. Yeah. Taylor, you've moved from quant then. Were you always qual? Because I know you're a quants person, but it's good to experience both. Any other quantitative people here? Oh, gosh. Yeah, old and brandy. Okay, so in terms of quantitative studies, a single research question, it's what is the relationship between? And you can see here, from there, you go to hypotheses. And oh, gosh, I get so excited right now. Hold on a second. Everyone is so quiet, so I'm worried that I've lost everyone. So back to paint. So if you're doing qualitative, the rule is this. Okay, so this is qualitative. This is quantitative. So qualitative, you'll have your overarching research question, your main research question, and then you'll have your sub-research questions. Okay. Your quantitative people will have a single research question. What is the relationship? The qualitative people from there will have their objectives, where the quantitative people will have hypotheses. So in terms of the qualitative people, your sub-research questions become your objectives. Please remember, if you say that, so it literally takes the question and turns it into an objective. And it would be, if this question is, what are the potential, what potential non-sales metrics are available for use by medical reps, you would then have here to explore the potential non-sales metrics. So those link together. And in terms of this, there is a relationship, there is no relationship between the two variables. So you will write your single question, and then you'll have your hypotheses indicating a relationship or no relationship. So you can see there, in terms of the quantitative research question, I would keep it simple. What is the relationship? I don't think we should complicate it and then steal it from your title. Simply steal it from your title. From there, we look at the aim or the rationale of the study. And I know there's going to be a bit of a repeat here, but when I think of oh no, this is the purpose of the study. What am I saying? Okay, so for me, the aim of the study is a simple sentence. The aim of the study is to, or the purpose of this paper is to, keep it as simple as possible. The aim of this paper is to determine potential alternate non-sales sales metrics for the use by medical reps. Keep it simple, guys. If you start with that script there, if you end up in the wrong place, you're illiterate, because you can only end up in the wrong place if you can't read and write English. I think keep it simple, okay, in terms of the aim. The aim of this paper is to determine the relationship between customer service training levels and customer satisfaction levels. Keep it very, very simple. And then your rationale. So the way I look at rationale, and I think this is where you're stuck, Cleo, for me, the best way to think about the rationale is to ask the question, what would happen if we left this problem alone? What would happen should we leave this problem alone? If you say to me, not much, you don't have a reason to do research. So your rationale essentially is, if we left this problem alone, this is what will happen. So it's highlighting the importance of the study. You can potentially put in the consequences here of what will happen. So the reality is, it is, supported by research, but I think it's the reason, and it should tell us why we have to do it. And the reason we have to do it is that should we leave this alone, honestly, the world is going to blow up. Well, that's it. If you say to yourself, what happens if I leave this problem alone? And you say, so what? Then you don't have a research problem. Now, in terms of Cleo's example, what happens if she leaves it alone? You could lose salespeople that are very good at their job, but because you're using the wrong metrics, it gives you the wrong impression of their ability or their sales ability. And it's a risk, because can I tell you, where there is a significant turnover in any sales position, I think you would imagine that if we look at stats, and I don't have the stats, and it's a bit of a guess, and remember, don't state an opinion as fact, but my feeling is that when I look at sales, you possibly find it's the kind of environment where we have the highest turnover. Any comments on that, Cleo?
No, definitely, 100% agree. And that's also where, like, when I've been doing my research, that's also what I've been noticing as well. And it makes sense. Like, even the company I work for now, okay, yes, I may be biased because it's my family company, but look, I've just noticed a trend that actually, because that's also what sparked my idea for this research, is that they used to use sales targets, but now they've moved away from that.
Yeah.
But even still, the reps stay around for the longest time. The reps will probably only leave if they retire, or once last year one left to be a stay-at-home mom, but other than that, the reps don't leave. They stay there until they retire. So that's why I also noticed a bit of a correlation there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to talk from the people that I know, where sales targets, all they do is they must convert the number of cold calls into sales targets. If you want to see the big turnover there, Yeah, I think purpose of sampling maybe rather, Michaela. So I would just rather use purpose of sampling. You purposively, we'll get to that. So maybe stay away from convenience, but rather purpose of sampling. Okay. And we'll talk about purpose of plus snowball, but we've got so few people we interview. So your rationale essentially justifies the study, but it really is that if we left this alone, what would be the consequences? And if those consequences are severe, and I can tell you now, when we look at where you only have sales-based targets and you have ratios between number of clients seen and number of clients who you've sold to, the turnover is significant and you could lose really, really good people. I mean, one of my ex-students works, and I say, works for one of the car companies. And he had made his way through the structure and he didn't want to, but he was forced to. He wanted to just be a salesman or salesperson. And he was put in charge of second-hand car sales. And he lost his job in a very short period of time. And what this particular organization used to do is he was expected to have a certain turnover of vehicles. But what they would do is if a car is not sold, and they simply take a brand new car and they put it on the second-hand sales floor, and they want the same price. So the new car sales look fantastic because that's all that the brand cares about. But the second-hand car sales aren't moving because you're not getting a discount for a new car that's been made second-hand by simply moving it off the floor. And now he's back at the same place. They've called him back to be a salesperson because they use more than just sales targets. It's a very strange thing. Anyone ever work in sales here? It's a place I don't wish on my worst enemy, to be honest with you. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go further than that tonight. Any questions, any concerns? Who is really nervous right now?